Let's pick things up there for tonight's Dateline Defense. Joining me, Colonel Cedric Leighton. He's a former military intelligence officer and president of Cedric Leighton Associates. Cedric, the situation in Syria develops each day. Tonight, the CIA has started delivering light arms to the rebels. The agency has also sent them anti-tank weaponry through a third party. Meanwhile, Secretary of State John Kerry is meeting with his Russian counterpart in Geneva to work out a chemical deal on chemical weapons. The term mixed messages comes to mind. Are we pursuing a military or a diplomatic solution in Syria?
Well, right now the predominance, Morris, is going to be on the diplomatic side of things, but the president has left himself the option of using military force should diplomatic efforts fail. Obviously, the Russian proposals are ones that are being looked at very carefully, and they're also looking at some other proposals that may be coming from other places, such as the Gulf states, other areas like that. And of course, there's always the ever-present issue of Turkey and the refugee crisis that is affecting not only Turkey, but also Jordan and Lebanon and other countries around Syria right now.
I'd like to read an excerpt from Russian President Vladimir Putin's op-ed in the New York Times. It's making a lot of headlines, as you know. No one wants the United Nations to suffer the fate of the League of Nations, which collapsed because it lacked real leverage. This is possible if influential countries bypass the United Nations and take military action without Security Council authorization. He had a lot more to say, too, in that op-ed. Does Putin have a point here?
He has a point, but he also has to remember that one of the main reasons that the UN is so ineffectual in dealing with crises like Syria is because of his own government's intransigence. As Russia has one of the veto seats on the UN Security Council, as does China. And because they are permanent members of the UN Security Council, they can veto any measure that goes in front of the Security Council, and they have exercised that veto over all the resolutions that have been proposed regarding Syria. So as a result of this, we have really not done very much to limit the carnage in Syria, to do things to mitigate the chemical weapons exposures that the civilian population has in Syria. So it's a very, very big mess, in part because the UN is ineffectual, and that ineffectuality from the UN is really the result of Russia's intransigence.
The ball's in his court now. I hope he surprises us in a good way.
I do too.
Let's
Absolutely.
move on. I'd like to get to a few more hot spots in the Middle East. First, Pakistan. The country announced it will release its most senior Taliban commander behind bars. Is this significant enough to jumpstart their struggling peace process?
It's a possible jumpstart opportunity for them. Now, these things have happened in the past, and they have not really had that much of an effect on the Taliban's ability to negotiate with the Pakistani governments, or their willingness to do so. But in this particular case, this might just be the one moment where the Taliban and the government of Pakistan actually work together to try to clean up what's going on in the northwest frontier province and all the other areas that are bordering on Afghanistan. Pakistan needs to clean that up, because what they want to do is they want to basically have as much of a united national front as they can before the American forces leave Afghanistan, and that's going to be their preeminent issue.
Cedric, before you go, let's also check in on Egypt. The country's interim president extended a nationwide state of emergency by 2 months. He cited ongoing security concerns. Now, this emergency state was supposed to expire in just a few days. What's happened?
Well, it's very typical of military governments of whatever type and whatever promises they make to continue to aggrandize power when they can. And in this particular case, what you see with the Egyptian military leadership is they've gotten not only comfortable in their positions of leadership and running the country, but they have also gotten a lot of popular support. They are basically the counterweight to the Muslim Brotherhood, and they know that they are going to be the ones to make a difference when it comes to the ability of the Egyptian state to combat Islamic fundamentalism, as well as, quite frankly, the Muslim Brotherhood, even though the Muslim Brotherhood ran the government until a few months ago.
We always enjoy getting your insight. Colonel Cedric Leighton, president of Cedric Leighton Associates. Thank you.
My pleasure, Morris. Thanks for having me.